Some of the biggest names in global business descended at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland.
Yahoo Finance, of course, here on the ground, and we had the opportunity to speak with many prominent figures specifically about geopolitical risks and AI. Here's a roundup of what some of them had to say.
So much AI talk here at the World Economic Forum, so little time to talk about it all. So let's get more on all things AI with ServiceNow CEO Bill McDermott. Bill, good to talk to you in person for a change. I usually come remote from somewhere.
Great to be with you, Brian and Julie. Thank you.
So what has surprised you about all this AI discussion here at the conference?
Business transformation. These CEOs that are here know that they're investing heavily in technology because generative AI in particular can give them an outcome. So it's not technology for technology's sake. This year, $5 trillion will be spent on technology, most of it on software and services. And Gen AI is the moment in which the CEOs are no longer thinking about investing. They know they have to invest because if they don't, and their competitor does, they may not be around too long. And this has been well documented. There were 1,200 CEOs surveyed. The question was, will you invest in Gen AI? To which 1,200 applied and said yes. 71% of them said we would raise capital from other areas or simply get a loan before we would not invest in Gen AI. So there's a very serious commitment to it because it can deliver an outcome.
I gotta say, Bill, I'm a little confused, but because we have some people we've talked to who've said it's still early days in AI. We want to move carefully and deliberately. We have other people like you're supposed to say you have to, for competitive reasons, you have to invest in it. You have people who say that it's not really being deployed that much yet. There's others who say I'm using it in my business already.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm a little turned around.
And it's understandable that you are, Julie. That's because a lot of people are talking about marketing, brochures, the future. We're talking about ServiceNow's platform now. We have domain-specific LLMs, which means that we build the LLM to the customer's industry. We build the use case based on, is it an IT use case, an employee experience, customer or creator use case? And now you have that on one platform with one architecture and one data model. So we already have the products. We released Vancouver, which was our big AI release, in September on the 29th. On the 30th, we had one day to take orders, and we had 4 mega orders. And the momentum for our Gen AI has continued. Why? Because it works, and it's going to make people more productive, 35 to 40% more productive in all the use cases that we have. We have 15 of them within ServiceNow right now, delivering 35, 40, and 50 in some cases. So this is productivity on steroids, but it's also making people happy. We give them a virtual agent which answers questions for them in natural language. We set it up in 15 minutes. So this is a completely different architecture, entirely new idea, and I'm unaware of another platform in the world that does what ServiceNow does. So that's why I'm so optimistic and so certain, because we're taking orders.
Yeah.
What are your biggest concerns around AI?
Well, my biggest concern around AI is that we don't move quickly enough to put more and more innovation into the platform. And I don't have to worry too much because I have the best engineering team in the business. For us, because we're in command and control of our own destiny, I'm not worried. But I am worried if people don't go for this move now and don't get in front of this. I truly believe that businesses will suffer. A lot of people talk about jobs. Time magazine put out an article in 1966 that AI would cost people jobs. In fact, computers would take 90% of the jobs, and the states would have to subsidize their livelihood to keep them sustainable. 90 million jobs later, technology is still the baseline for value creation, job creation, and momentum. So technology is the forefront of everything. You got to move on it. You got to move on it now. And it's for people's benefit. We'll retool, reskill 6 out of 10 people. And that's going to happen. Guess what? CEOs need to be retooled and reskilled. This is the era of the agile CEO. I have a company that can close its books 2 days before the end of the quarter. That's because We're running the company on the ServiceNow platform. We're completely agile. Everything is transparent in real time, and we know exactly where we stand minute to minute. That's the future. That's what it has to be.
Bill, on the flip side, if you look at the potential regulation of AI, earlier Brian talked to Mark Benioff and made the parallel with social media, which was not really regulated at all at the time and now trying to catch up. And I won't repeat what he said here. Choice words for how it has been. But if you look at AI in parallel, don't we need to get out ahead of it and figure out some guardrails around it so you don't have these unforeseen consequences?
I want to just differentiate the two environments. I'm talking about the business environment where the customer's using their own data on our platform, and that data is highly curated, meaning they've been working on making sure that data is correct for many years now. So that's one scenario. We also have ChatGPT as an option 4.0, and we're in partnership with Microsoft and others where we can go to the open internet and bring information in at the customer's request. That world does need guardrails, and there does need to be rules and regulations so bad things don't happen. And right now, you're right, security is on the top of mind for every single CEO out there. It should be every person out there, because so many hackers are busy at work trying to do unfortunate things. So yes, I agree there should be guardrails, but I do want to differentiate the two environments.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. I know this is a busy event. We'll let you get back to meeting lots of folks. ServiceNow CEO Bill McDermott, good to see you.
Ryan.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
A new survey out of PwC looking at how AI will impact businesses. That, of course, survey is coming at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Joining us now is Tim Ryan, PwC Chair and Senior Partner. Tim, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
A lot of cool stats in this survey. One that stood out to me, 68% of U.S. CEOs see AI boosting productivity. What does that mean for jobs?
What it means is companies have embraced the power of Gen AI. Last year, 2023, it was all about investing and beginning to learn. 2024 will be another year. The next couple of years, there's a huge opportunity for companies to upskill their employees, to help them learn how to use this tool to do their jobs more efficiently, free up time in other areas around growth. The other thing around jobs, we see tremendous growth opportunities for job growth in the sense that the human loop of testing AI. So we're learning on AI right now, and over the next couple of years, humans will be used to test what comes out of the AI processes.
How do you reassure people about jobs, though? Because the message has been pretty consistent that, it'll make some jobs easier, it'll make jobs more productive, et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't feel like people quite believe that.
Yeah, and it's understandable. Trust is a big gap in many things. What's really important for employers is to make sure you're transparent with your employees and make sure you bring them along on the journey. The more kind of heart and mind you have in employees who are in their jobs, the better they're going to be at their jobs. So it's important to have an open discussion with employees. And one of the biggest things is to give them the skills that they need. At PwC, we've begun an upskilling journey 5 years ago of making employee upskilling around technology akin to an employee benefit like 401k or healthcare. What we see leading companies doing is teaching their people how to use this important tool so they can gain knowledge. If you bring them along, that increases their ability to do the jobs today well, and it gives them more options going forward. So that's one important thing to do. The other important thing to do is give them the opportunity to innovate. As time frees up, they're closest to the customer, they're close to the business process, and that gives them the opportunity to innovate.
This is what we're talking about with so-called white-collar jobs, so higher-skilled jobs. Lower skilled jobs, some of them might go away. And I wonder if they will have the same upskilling opportunities to then move up the chain.
Yeah, time will tell where we go at this point. We've been talking about the loss of jobs to technology for a long time right now, and we continue to see opportunity for job growth out there. And what people were worried about even 20 years ago with the computer and the internet, now when we see automations 5 years ago, the reality is there's plenty of job growth, and that's part of because we see tremendous innovation, new business formation, and the opportunity for people to make a difference. I do think it does come back to reskilling, and it comes back to teaching people skills at every level in the organization, but I continue to be very optimistic around job growth.
Ahead of the Davos, I had the chance to catch up with the head of the IMF, and they had a survey out looking at how AI will impact jobs. But what she told me was that we might need new social safety nets, most notably because baby boomers may not be able to be upskilled. Do you think we're going to see that?
I think there's an opportunity for all of us to play a part to make sure we bring everybody along. The theme of Davos this year is rebuilding trust. Part of that trust is with people in society who have been left behind. We have a massive opportunity to do that. I think if we don't invest in skilling, if we don't give people the ability to move across companies and different jobs, we will have a problem around lack of a social safety net. So I think what is important is create those opportunities for people to do it. Again, I think if we do our part business, if we work with government at the state level, the city level, the country level, I think we have the opportunity to prevent what people are worried about.
The other piece of Gen AI is monetization, which is a big theme, right? There haven't been that many companies that have really jumped into that. Yet 44% of the people in your survey said it will provide a net increase in profits in the next 12 months. I was really struck by that. I thought that was a high number.
Yeah. It is. Keep in mind, people have been on the AI journey for many years. Gen AI, for many of us, hit really last year with OpenAI and a number of announcements that they had made. Companies have been on this journey, and they made a lot of investments in 23. I think in 24 and 25 is when we begin to see things that affect the bottom line. I think most of that is on the efficiency side. The real opportunities are ones that we can only begin to imagine now around revenue growth opportunities. I think those come more in 25 and 26 as we see the real power. And again, that's where I see tremendous business and opportunity growth from that perspective as well.
We're asking all leaders, Tim, some of their biggest surprises so far at Davos. What has been some of your biggest surprises?
One of my biggest surprises is the massive focus on Gen AI. This is my 7th year at Davos. It's the first time 2 years in a row the topic has stuck. So last year was Gen AI, this year was Gen AI. It tells me that it is real, it is very important, the fact that it's stuck that long. I also think one of the things is we do need to talk more. One of my surprises is a topic we're not talking enough about. And that is the importance of management staying focused on their businesses with all of these other things happening that are out there. We've got elections across the globe, we got geopolitical tensions, there's a lot of things on people's minds. At the end of the day, what we see in our client base is companies that are focused on their business, driving revenue growth, driving efficiencies, taking care of their employees, motivating their employees, and going after their customers and growth. Those are the ones that are winning. And I think now more than ever, we have to talk about the need for focus because good quality management wins.
Aren't you cold?
Oh,
You're the second person. Brian Moynihan also came on the set with no jacket. It's cold out. It's cold.
I think we're both from Boston, so Davos is similar.
We have to ask the tough questions here. Nonetheless, Tim Ryan, PwC Chair and Senior Partner, always great to get some time with you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Sometimes at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, you come across a Yahoo Finance fan favorite, one of those tickers on our platform that everybody just seems to love. Joining us now is C3 AI CEO Tom Siebel. You have one of the most popular tickers on our platform. Good to see the man leading the company in person.
Thank you, Brian.
So, what are you working on next? Tell us a little bit about enterprise software and what's the next big thing in your space?
We've been building enterprise AI applications now for 15 years, and we spent almost $2 or $3 billion building these applications for manufacturing, supply chain, demand chain, precision health, finance, defense, intelligence. And for the last 2 years, we've been really buckling down on generative AI. Generative AI changes everything. And so now we're applying generative AI to manufacturing, generative AI to defense, predictive maintenance for the United States Air Force, contested logistics for Transcom, supply chain optimization for Coke, production optimization at Nucor Steel. Generative AI changes everything. It fundamentally changes the nature of the human-computer interface as it relates to enterprise application software, and this is big.
Now, you are, I think we can say, a corporate technology pioneer, right? Siebel Systems was the company that you had that you ended up selling to Oracle. And so you were there at sort of the beginning edge of customer relationship management software. Compare that with what we're seeing with generative AI, because you said it's going to change everything. So what are the parallels? What are the big differences?
Actually, I was at the beginning of enterprise application software because I was there when we started Oracle, database, then ERP, then CRM, then
So you've
Siebel.
seen a lot of these different...
So I've seen this for a while, and when I began the information technology business globally, it was about $200 billion. Okay, now it's like 7 to 8 trillion. Generative AI alone, is predicted to be like a $1.3 trillion market in a few years. This is the fastest growing segment of the enterprise application software market in the history of enterprise application software.
Walk down the promenade, Tom, and there's all these companies with demos and buzzy installations and trying to pitch people things. But not everybody can win in this. And I'm sure you know about that just having the arc of your career. Is there a shakeout in AI? And it consolidates around 3 or 4 companies.
Well, a lot of it is just noise. I mean, we have these enterprise application software companies that wrote their stacks 20 years ago, and now they put AI on their ticker, AI in their name, and because and every company on the promenade it now says AI, even though they shipped their software in 2003. So a lot of it is just fluff. I think like every big change, like the internet. Like the smartphone. I mean, we're going to see a proliferation of technologies. I mean, how many smartphones did we see before it came down to like 2? Okay, and how many smartphones did Microsoft release? Okay, Motorola, Nokia. I mean, where are they? They're gone, and we're down to like 2. So we'll see this is big. It's really big, and we're going to see a proliferation of 1,000 points of light, and then it'll consolidate down to a few winners, just as it does in all other aspects of the information technology business.
What will characterize the winners?
People who deliver high quality products to deliver economic benefit to their customers. Hard stop.
It's easy then, right?
Hard stop.
Talk to us about just your order book, your financials. How much will you earn over the next couple of years because of this boom you're talking about?
Well, we're anticipating significant growth. In other words, we have clearly seen in the last 2 or 3 years the interest in AI and enterprise AI that we've been working on for 15 years just kind of grow exponentially, right? I mean, there's nobody at Davos who isn't talking about AI. So we have today, I think, 58 tried, tested, proven enterprise application software products in the market today that handle everything from generative AI for Salesforce and generative AI for Workday to generative AI for manufacturing, supply chain, demand chain, and production optimization. So I think we're in a pretty good position to benefit from this interest, and we'd expect to see our growth rates grow considerably in the coming years.
That said, just quickly, your last earnings report did disappoint the street to some extent. So when you go forward into this year, I don't know how much you can tell us given where you are in the reporting cadence, but what kind of, as you're looking into the quarters that are coming, what kind of spending cadence do you expect from clients?
Well, we changed our pricing model about 8 quarters ago from a subscription-based pricing model to a consumption-based pricing model. And so for a short period of time, that depressed our growth rates and brought the stock price down. Now, I'm not sure what happened last quarter, but last year, I think our stock price was up 156%. Yes. So, I mean,
not bad.
The Crimea River, okay, and so I think that that was pretty good. So we have seen in the last 3 quarters our growth rates accelerating, and we'd expect to see. I mean, this enterprise application software market for enterprise AI applications is going to be huge. Our goal is to establish a market leadership position globally in that space. We might succeed at that, and if we don't succeed, we might be number 2 or 3. Okay, any way you slice it. That's a hugely successful global, juggernaut.
Before we let you go, as I mentioned at the intro, you have one of the most viewed tickers on Yahoo Finance. People love trading your stock, looking up into it and studying it. What do these folks need to know about you as a leader?
We're focused on quality, we're focused on excellence, we're focused on innovation, we're focused on customer satisfaction. I mean, we're not the woke company. I mean, we're here for business ethics, high quality products, customer satisfaction, delivering economic benefit to our customers. Some of our customers generate, actually one customer has $2 billion in economic benefit from use of our products last year. Another customer that's in the lumber and manufacturing business generates $1 billion in economic benefit. Brian, I mean, at Oracle, at Siebel, at SAP, at Salesforce, there is no customer that has stood up on stage and said we're getting $2 billion in economic benefit a year from the use of our products. In the case of C3, we have customers that say that. That's what we deliver. High quality customers into the hands of high quality products in the hands of satisfied customers. That's what we do.
Well said, sir. Good to meet you in person. C3 AI founder and CEO Tom Siebel. Enjoy the rest of Davos. Appreciate it.
We've been talking about all things AI. To power a lot of that AI, we need semiconductors. That's not the only semiconductor news that we got today. However, TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, said revenues are going to grow as much as 25% this year. So here's someone to talk about all of this. That's Cristiano Amon of Qualcomm, the CEO there. It's great to see you, Cristiano. First of all, thank you so much for being here. What is this signal, this TSMC forecast about demand, particularly for chips for smartphones, which is your bread and butter?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. I'll go back to our last earnings call that, for the first time, 23 has been a year of correction in the industry for a number of reasons. The macroeconomic, we're coming off that 21, 22 supply chain crisis. There was a lot of demand. But in the last earnings call, we said that a lot of the corrections were behind us, and we see signs of the smartphone market normalizing it. So I can't really make predictions at this point about how the year's going to plan out, but I'm cautiously optimistic, especially on the Android side. We have seen last quarter the market normalize, and I think the TSMC sign's a very positive one. I know that phones are a good proxy of consumer confidence, whether you're going to buy a new phone or not.
Pricey.
Huh?
They're pricey.
They have a lot of technology on it. Yeah.
There's a lot of AI floating around here. There's installations, there's demos all over the place. How is this new world of Gen AI going to impact your outlook for chips?
Look, this is one of the most exciting things for Qualcomm right now, especially when you combine that with what we're doing to diversify and grow the company. We have spent a lot of time creating this computing engines that you can run AI on the devices that are battery power at the edge. Phone, PC, the AI PC, and cars. And it's so exciting that you can we did something which is very unique. We can run those large language models on your phone, and you can do them very fast. Like we demonstrated with 8 Gen 3 that just launched right now on Samsung Galaxy S24. I think they just had a great launch showing a number of new AI use cases running on the device. I think we're going to see coming in the second half this year, next generation Windows PCs with powered by X Elite that has a number of models running on the device. Actually, we have OpenAI Whisper model ported. We have over 40 different models ported into the device, and we're working on cars. So this is really exciting. If anything, I would say that's a great tailwind for the Qualcomm growth and diversification.
Can you make enough chips to support this growth you're seeing? Because I hear this from you. I heard it from Lisa Su over at AMD. We've heard it from the NVIDIA team. I mean, how do you feed enough chips into this market?
Oh, we don't have an issue. Maybe I should talk about this in a different way. In general, I think, especially when you look at all the computation for AI, and data center is a big piece of it right now, I think we will need a significant more capacity for manufacturing of chips. Even before what we saw the correction of the sector in 23, but the things we said before is still true. We're going to have to double the total capacity for manufacturing of chips before the end of the decade. And AI is just this new computation that has this huge demand for computing. And, data center is going to go its own pace. I think what's exciting about what we're doing is we can do this on the devices, we can do this on phone, we can do this on PCs, we can do it on cars. And for that we think that there's enough capacity. Those are very large industries, and right now we don't have a capacity problem, but demand could grow very, very fast. We're just the first phase of a transition.
What's the number one question you're getting here about AI? I mean, as we said, like every conversation we're having is about AI, but you're in it. So what's the question that you're getting from people?
Yes, it varies. One big conversation is, how can we go? How this help my industry, and what are the different use cases? And there's an incredible amount of interest in getting that thing on the device. Just think about automotive as an example. Natural language communication is perfect when you are behind the wheel, and the car is now a new computing space. So how can we add those capabilities to some of the models, some that are in development with the existing hardware that we have. Those are like, it's about use cases, how do we get faster. The other conversation is how we should think about the impact that this technology has in the broader ecosystem. How do we keep the platforms open? How do we regulate this in a way that you regulate for the guardrails that are necessary, but at the same time don't prevent innovation, and most important, keep the platforms open. So because you don't know which model are going to be the model that wins, and it's going to be different models for different applications, and those needs to be available to run on all the platforms.
Before we let you go, is there a new piece of AI that has changed your daily working life that you use all the time now?
Well, I have been working with the Microsoft Copilot. It's very helpful, especially to summarize meetings, summarize chats and things like that. That has been useful. I've been experimenting with that. I think as a company, we're doing a lot of things with AI. We have been using AI to a lot of our development, how we streamline access to information database. But I'm going to tell something which I think, it's not I'm using, I think that was a very cool thing. You, before we start, we're talking, you mentioned about CES. We had a very cool demo of CES. A lot of people found that was very interesting. We work with our partner BMW, and we got the information that you usually have in the glove compartment you don't check, right, the manual, but also the service information that exists for a particular car model. You see something on the dashboard, you just ask your car, what is that? And the car will explain it to you, will show you what's happening, will tell you what to do.
You mean a little light that always goes on, I never know what it is?
Well, you're going to know now. And then we'll schedule the service appointment for you.
I think that, look, the media is talking about Nikki Haley, but DeSantis has still been far better known nationally. He still is polling in second place. And this is going to hurt Nikki. She was really trying to make the argument that it's a two-person race. It is not a two-person race. It's a one-person race. Everybody else is essentially jockeying for cabinet positions and vice president under Trump if he wins. And that is, where the country's going right now.
What is the economic risk that you see if we do have a rematch of Trump and Biden?
I don't think there's a near-term risk in the sense that once Trump gets the nomination, which is virtually certain, that he will be so much more powerful in the Republican Party. I mean, overnight, he'll have the loyalty of pretty much everybody, the endorsements, the money, the media attention, and that means that his policy pronouncements, to the extent that he makes them, will suddenly have a lot more impact. For example, in pushing not to provide any support for the Ukrainians, or in giving the Iranians a much tougher run in responding to their support for proxy wars in the region. Do I think that's going to have a big economic impact? Not near term. If Trump wins, of course, last time around there was a positive market impact to Trump winning. Why? Massive near-term deficit spending, markets like that, regulatory rollback, markets like that, and also lower taxation. This time around, that would also be true, but it would be counterbalanced by so much of the concerns of American credibility, even creditworthiness, around a U.S. that is so dysfunctional, so polarized, and where a new McCarthyism could emerge that would really chill red versus blue, including investability of red versus blue states under a Trump-led political administration. That wasn't a risk in 2016. That would be a risk in 2025.
But is that a risk that would dissuade a President Trump from doing any of that stuff?
No, of course not.
So it could happen anyway.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am curious here in Davos, how many people are talking about the likelihood of a Trump presidency and sort of trying to prepare for that already?
Everyone's talking about it. I mean, there's a lot of ice out there. Right under the ice, just under the ice, is sheer panic on the part of certainly every European leader. You may have seen Christine Lagarde, the head of the ECB, who came out publicly saying that she thought that Trump was a serious risk for Europe, for trade relations, for America's role in the world. She's the only one that said that publicly. Every European leader I'm speaking to privately is concerned. I just had a meeting with a very senior Japanese delegation this morning. That was issue number 1, 2, and 3. And they say, back in Tokyo right now, every CEO, that is what they're worried about. It's not yet dominating the media, but compared to the last 2 months ago when I was in Tokyo, it's become much more real. I think people were hoping that, it can't really be real. I mean, given 91 indictments and given, all of the legal exposure and the fact that in Washington, D.C., Trump could very easily be convicted before an election, something's going to happen to stop him. No, it's not. No, it's not. The only thing standing in the way of Trump winning is 81-year-old Joe Biden, who has a record to run on, but also has a lot of people that feel like he's not actually up to the job. And that is a serious concern for a former president who refused to accept the free and fair transfer of power. I mean, that's existential. It's foundational to any democracy. In any well-functioning democracy, if you had this going on, this would be the number 1, 2, and 3 issue. And yet in our country, it's not. What's the conclusion you take from that? It's that our democracy is not well-functioning. It is a democracy in crisis. And yes, that is the top issue being discussed at Davos this year.
Well, Ian, I'm hearing you talk about business leaders potentially pulling back in their level of concern, world leaders maybe not investing in the United States under another Trump presidency to the extent they would. It sounds awful for the U.S. economy.
I didn't say that. I mean, the U.S. dollar is the global reserve currency. The U.S. is utterly dominant in artificial intelligence. It is a massive food producer, exporter, a massive energy producer, exporter, higher production levels than Saudi Arabia right now, only going up under Biden, would only be going up under Trump. All of these are signs of economic strength. But at the same time, the political environment in the U.S. is more dysfunctional by a long margin than any of the other advanced industrial democracies. No, to the extent this is a huge risk. I mean, yeah, red versus blue, concerns about creditworthiness long term, yes, that's true. But the bigger concern is for Europe. Of course it is. Because if you're the Europeans and you face a Trump who considers President Zelensky a personal and political enemy because he refused to go after Biden and Hunter when Trump demanded it, Trump has consistently said he's going to end the war in the first day. The way he does that is he says, here is the outcome that I demand that you accept, which is completely unacceptable to the Ukrainian leadership. It's accepting essentially a partitioned Ukraine for a ceasefire. When that happens, he cuts off aid. Now, that will split NATO. That will split the EU. You've got the Poles and the Balts and the Nordic states who will be existentially opposed to U.S. policy, but you'll also have the Hungarians and the Serbs and maybe the Italians who will say, wait a second, we're paying a lot for this. Let's work with Trump. Let's find a way to work with Russia. That's not the U.S. pulling out of NATO, but that's NATO fragmenting. That's the EU fragmenting. This is the biggest risk that the Europeans have seen since the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. It is that big of a deal. And that's coming at a time when the Europeans are also paying far more for energy. They're having a real hard time continuing present levels of industrialization. They're facing significant fiscal challenges. And then you're going to throw Trump on top of that in the middle of a Russia-Ukraine war? We haven't talked about the Middle East, right? This is such a problem for the Europeans. Absolutely, this is the top issue they're talking about right now.
Ian, there's so much more I want to talk to you about, but I do have to ask about something we talked about off camera a little bit. And I said, as you were enumerating some of what's going on in the world, I said things are always sort of chaotic in the world. Unless people get sort of apathetic or complacent, you said, no, it's not. This is worse.
Yeah, it's worse.
And so I just wanted to put a fine point on that. In your view, what is happening in the globe right now and why it is worse and why people need to pay attention?
Because we have 3 wars going on right now. We have, and none of them have guardrails. None of them have diplomatic efforts to try to reduce or contain the tensions. Russia versus Ukraine, 83 countries getting together just a couple days ago in Davos, went absolutely nowhere. The Russians not participating, the Chinese not participating. They're not going to accept being partitioned, but that is the reality of where we're heading. You've got a Middle East war that continues to expand. It is not being contained to Gaza. The Americans are deeply isolated in their position supporting Netanyahu. That's not going to change anytime soon. And then you have the U.S. versus itself. And you have Democrats and Republicans that exist in different information spaces on everything, right? And it's not a civil war, but it's a very deep and existential fight in the most powerful country in the world today. We are used to that in the United States because it's been happening incrementally over decades and then a little more quickly over the last couple of years. But let us not kid ourselves about the unprecedented nature of what we're seeing in the U.S. political system virtually every day. We cannot normalize that. Our allies will not normalize that. Our adversaries will take advantage of that. That is what we're talking about here. Now, there are plenty of good things happening in the world. There's massive developments in AI and new climate transition energy technologies are becoming affordable at scale. The U.S.-China relationship a little better managed than it has been. India looks great right now. I mean, we could do an entire segment just on the positive stuff, but we've known each other for a while. Geopolitically, this is by far the worst environment in my lifetime.
the conversations we've been having both on and off camera have been centered around AI, governance of AI, all the cool stuff AI can do. I even talked to a couple of folks off camera who said that they have a new AI-powered device, a generative AI-powered device called the Rabbit, which brings up the new sort of iPhone of AI race, if you will. Well, let's talk to somebody about all of this. Chairman and CEO of Verizon, Hans Vestberg, is joining us now. Thank you so much for being here, Hans.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here. Great to be here.
When I think about sort of AI-powered devices, obviously they need to run on something.
Absolutely.
So that makes me think of Verizon. So how are you thinking about what comes next and how Verizon plays in it?
So when it comes to AI, I mean, especially the generative AI and things like that, I think at the edge of the network it's going to be very important to have AI to take quick decisions very close to the end user, the customer or the enterprise. And of course, that's how we built our network. We built our network with an enormously strong resilience from the data center to the edge of the network. So I think that as you're going to see over time, the network will be very important. I mean, all the power you need for it, of course, to do all the generation of it, but also to transport all the data. And that's how we built the network. So very clearly, we think that generative AI will be important for our business. Then, of course, we use AI already today in our company, and think that's going to continue to be an important tool for us.
As this AI permeates the United States, does that change how much you invest each year in terms of CapEx?
No, not directly, but of course, over time, the smarter you become to know where you're going to deploy your capital. Now we talk about network capital, how you build your network. I mean, in 2023, we had the guidance between 18 billion and a quarter to 19 billion and a quarter. So we invest quite heavily, a capital intensive business. So if we would know a little bit better where we have the holes we need to put in capacity into quicker, that will be helpful from AI. Ultimately, I have a person doing it, but learning where do I have the challenges, where do I have the problems, that's very important. So definitely, it can make us much more efficient.
When you look at your business, I assume you guys are sort of device agnostic for end users on wireless devices, but I know you guys are trying to minimize churn at this point. You're trying to keep your wireless subscribers. Talk to us. I know you can't give us a lot of near-term discussion, but give us some big picture commentary around
strategy. No, because I'm going to report my fourth quarter next week, so I will try to refrain from that.
Yes.
No, I think you come to a market, if we talk wireless consumer, almost everyone in this country has a mobile phone. So it's much about retention of the customers, continue to give them great services and building new services. I mean, we have not only the greatest network, we also built a lot of new services, especially with the content providers. We have, right now in the market, we have a combination of Netflix and Max. Nobody else can do that. And ultimately to give the right services and the right type of products. And we also launched My Plan in May, where it's basically you customize your own plan. This is the type of network I want. This is the type of perks. We call it perks. What type? I want Disney Plus. I want that. And you can put it together, and that becomes a more attractive offering. So that's how you need to think about it. Then, of course, there's also new customers that you want to attract. But as a smaller piece today, it's much more important to see that you have the right offering for the existing customers.
The more tech CEOs that I talk to, I get the sense that I'm going to need a new phone very quickly. Do you see a major iPhone, Samsung upgrade cycle in the next couple of years because of this AI?
We have seen, of course, a little bit of a slowdown on customers getting new phones. So they keep the phones longer because they're getting better and better. Of course, that's part of it, and the network is, of course, even better. So, but of course, every new innovation attracts new players in the market and new devices. And I think the last time they were really hype was, of course, when the first 5G phone came. In 2019, 20, and 21. Let's see if AI have the same attraction. You're going to need to see, first of all, that it gives some new application services for the consumer, especially if they're going to attract them. So we are eager to see. I probably know more than I can say, but it's going to be exciting to see what type of phones will come out the next couple of years.
Well, yeah, kind of on a related note, I mean, we heard of one of your European competitors, Vodafone, coming out with a new partnership with Microsoft today that has to do with AI. Can we expect some things like that from Verizon?
I think we're already working with these type of things, and I think that both, because what you need to think about when you deliver a service to customers, you need a network to be configured right, you need the devices and the modems that is making the connections right, and you need the applications. We are long term. We work with our partners all the time to see that we have the best performance and the best innovative service on top of it. So you can not only expect, we're already working with all these players in order to see that customer get the best of us. And there's many different partners you need to work with, because we are agnostic for the different type of operating system and devices.
We've talked to a lot of leaders so far in the 2 days we've been here, and especially after the Iowa caucus results, there's now this new level of caution after these results. Of course, President Trump winning that Iowa caucus. Are you preparing for consumer weakening in the back half of the year as we get up to the election?
I think the last couple of years, basically, we're preparing for a weakness. I think companies like ours are always prepared for different scenarios in the market. That's our job. We haven't seen so much until the third quarter, at least. I cannot say anything more. The consumer spend has been good. More important, I think that our service, mobility and broadband, is so important in today's society in order for you to be part of our society, if it's doing education, work from home, or maybe even healthcare or other societal things that are important. So our industry has been growing in importance for the consumer and for enterprises, and I think that's part of it as well. But let us see. We are preparing for any outcome, but until the third quarter, which I reported last time, we didn't see much of it, nor in customers' payment readiness and things like that. So, but let's see next week, because next week I'm going to have an earnings call.
On Meta's last earnings conference call, CEO Mark Zuckerberg said that AI is going to change advertising in a big way. And we have the perfect person to talk about that, the head of the global business group at Meta, who's in charge of advertising, among other things. Great to see you. Nicola Mendelsohn is here with us in Davos. So, Nicola, it's already changing advertising in many ways. So talk to us about what you're already seeing and what we may yet see in terms of the two.
Okay, so back in 22, we brought together all of the products that we have that are actually powered by AI into our Meta Advantage suite. And what we're seeing now is that our advertisers on the whole are using at least one of those products. And the reason they're doing that is because it's giving them better targeting and better performance. On average, they're seeing about a 32% increase in return on their advertising spend. So this is really significant. So this is where we are already today. We're going to continue to be investing to deliver stronger performance for our advertisers. But also when you start to think about generative AI, well, that's where we're really going to see some exciting changes, and we already are. So when it comes to, we launched last year a whole generative AI sandbox, and we're seeing our advertisers now starting to do image creation in there. We're starting to do image enhancement. We're starting to see copy being done. And so this allows advertisers to do so much more personalized marketing at scale, which I think is going to be very significant.
Can you call the end to the ad recession that played out a lot last year?
Well, we're starting to see already that, the mood here, this Davos, is pretty similar to last year, which is there's a cautious optimism in the air. I think advertisers are getting more comfortable in uncertainty, and we're certainly living in very uncertain times. But ultimately, advertisers are going to advertise where they're getting strong performance. And with some of the numbers that I just shared with you, they're certainly seeing that from the Meta suite of products.
And what does sort of the balance look like between, there's obviously a lot of small advertisers across the Meta platforms, but you also deal with a lot of the big advertisers. So what kind of differences are you seeing in demand between large and small companies?
Actually, one of the things that I think is wonderful about Meta is, in very much, it's always been about the democratization of digital marketing. So it doesn't matter if you're the world's biggest advertiser, the world's smallest advertiser, you still have access to the same tools. And so they're using all of them. They really are enjoying the Meta Advantage suite of products. It's really important. We're also seeing a big take up in Reels. 3/4 of our advertisers, large and small, are actually using Reels now in their advertising. And that's not a surprise, because we're seeing that people are really enjoying Reels. We're seeing hundreds of billions, 200 billion Reel plays a day, and very high engagement. We're seeing hundreds of millions of comments or shares that are actually happening. So we're seeing really deep engagement in that Reels product. And a lot of that, of course, is also powered by AI.
And what about the uptake in terms of ads for Threads?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me on that. So we're very excited about the launch of Threads. You know, we shared that there's been 100 million people utilizing it. We think they're really enjoying it. And, you know, it's actually far exceeded our expectations in terms of the take-up. And we recently just launched it also in Europe as well. But to your ads question, well, it's a little too early for that. You know, the way that we build products, I think you know this now, is that we really make sure that we get the engagement there with people and that they get there. That's what we did with Reels, that's what we did with Stories. And when we see that depth of engagement and the scale that we want to get it at, that's the point of which we'll bring in monetization. And I promise you'll be the first to know.
I promise you I will ask again.
I know you will.